everyone, James Knight Numbers here, and welcome back to another episode of the Political Freedom Fighters Podcast. In this episode, I have with you all here today a Libertarian who is running for Hanover County Board of Commissioners, who is running as a Libertarian, but has also been officially been endorsed by the North Carolina Forward Party. So that's pretty cool. So with that being said, I want to introduce to all of you Mr. Bob Drach. How are you, sir?
Hey, James, I'm doing great. And thanks to everyone who's listening in to our scintillating discussion about county politics.
It is a massive honor to interview you, man. Anyways, my first question is, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so again, my name's Bob Drach. I got a website you can learn about my political positions and my goals. It's drach.us, drach.us. And I'm running for new Hanover County Commissioner. It's 5 commissioners on a 4-year cycle. 2 are elected this term and 3 on the next cycle. And the New Hanover County is one of the larger counties population-wise in the state, but I believe it's the smallest geographically. So we've got some unique issues here. We're on the coast, so we've got beach community, and we've got a lot of retirees moving into the area, a lot of new people. It's over 250,000 people in the general area. We've got coordination going on between, our residents live in Brunswick, New Hanover, and Pender County, and cross the lines. So there are a lot of kind of regional and local issues dealing with the growth, and then a lot of the political issues that everyone deals with across the state.
Alrighty, fair enough. Let's talk a little bit about your history.
Okay, some people may recognize me. I was the Libertarian candidate for state auditor in the last election cycle. And I got over 160,000 votes. I was the second leading vote getter among independent candidates statewide in the last election cycle. So that also helped build my identity or my brand. Running for state auditor, I've got an accounting background. I'm a certified management accountant. And I believe that good financial management makes for good government. So that's the same thing I'm bringing to my race for county commissioner. All governments have more needs than they've got money to serve. And some governments will stretch their budget, increase their taxes, take on debt to try to meet some of those needs. And some jurisdictions, some governments have more discipline. They'll control their spending, they'll set priorities, they'll make sure the things that are essential to serve the people are accomplished well, and they'll make conscious decisions not to do other things that are beyond the ability of, beyond the resources that are available. So that's my general take on government and on what we can do better in New Hanover County and probably at a lot of other levels of government.
Alrighty, fair enough. So I guess my next question for you is, why are you running for this race as a Libertarian?
So there's an expression, James. It's I think it goes that all politics is local. If my memory is right, that goes back to New Orleans and the political machine that existed down there at one point in time. So I'm testing that idea. I'm testing whether all politics is local. And we'll find out. As a third-party candidate, some people believe that your best opportunity is local politics. And that's because you're not running on, when you're running for, at a level that's not local, people don't really know who you are. They don't know your family. They don't know your history. They're not sure what your motivations are. You're not part of their community. But locally, I probably know several thousand people around the city from my 20 years that I've lived here. I've coached basketball clubs. I've been an employer in the community. I've served on public boards, and my kids went to school here, so I know a lot of people, and I believe that'll build a lot of goodwill and generate a lot of grassroots type vote, and we'll see if that's enough to carry me over the top.
Alrighty, let's hope so. Anyways, what does the new Hanover County Board of Commissioners do exactly?
So it's interesting. We think of three branches of government: executive, judicial, legislative. But at the county level, there's a bit of a blurring between the executive and the legislative. So you can think of a county commissioner as being part of the legislature, your representative. But there's also a lot of executive power that's vested in the county commission. So in New Hanover County, the biggest power we have is taxation, and the budget of the county is about $500 million. It's about $500 million gets spent in New Hanover County. So we set the tax, rates. Both there's a sales tax element and there's a property tax element, and that money comes in, and we spend it for the benefit of the people in New Hanover County. It turns out that about 1/3 of the budget is spent on education. So the state gives the schools some money, and the county also pitches in a significant amount of money, right? We're talking over $100 million. Another third of the budget goes toward public health and safety. And the third part of the budget is, I believe that's the sheriff's office. Right. So the sheriff is elected independently. The sheriff is something of the kind of an executive in the county, but the budget comes through the county commission. Then also within the county, there are all sorts of agencies and committees that do the work of the people, and the county commissioners typically have a representative on within those agencies or committees. So, for example, there's the airport authority, the community college, there's a water authority in our area. There's the landfill. There's beaches and harbors, tourism. So really, everything that may receive funding or may have an element of government overlap with the citizens of the county, that also the representatives typically are either pulled from the Board of Commissioners or appointed by the Board of Commissioners. That make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So, anyways, let's talk about the Republicans first. What's your thoughts on the Republican Party?
Yeah, so in my race, I mentioned earlier that there are 2 seats open on the commission. There are 5 commissioners total. In this election, there's one of the open seats is currently held by a Democrat, and one of the open seats is currently held by a Republican. You asked me about the Republicans or the Democrats, or both?
I want to ask you about the Republicans first, and then I'll ask you about the Democrats.
Okay. So the Republican incumbent, I'll think of her name in a bit. I'll let you know her name. But she is her first term on the board. She was previously part of the government in Carolina Beach, and she's well respected. She's well liked. So she's running for re-election. There's a second Republican that's running also for the open seat, but I think for all intents and purposes, the real competitive race here is with the incumbent Republican. She's popular. The county is slightly more Republican than Democrat. It's very much a purple county, but almost every Republican voter is going to cast their ballot for the incumbent. I'm going to jump to the Democrats. The Democrats are in a similar situation. The incumbent there a guy named Rob Zappel, has been serving for 3 terms now. I think he's running for his 4th term. And he's fairly popular. And you can tell he's been reelected twice so far. And almost half of the voters in the county, or there's almost an equal number of Democrats as there are Republicans. So he's going to get all of the Democrat voters voting for him. So we have this really interesting dynamic. And I think the opportunity for me is in two places. First of all, while there are an equal number of Democrats and Republicans, there are more independent voters. We call them unaffiliated in North Carolina, right? So I've obviously got to appeal to people who they've made the decision not to affiliate with a party. They've said, we're looking for better choices, or we're not satisfied with Republicans and Democrats. Well, here's the opportunity. We've got a qualified, competent, experienced, independent candidate. So if I can get a significant number of those voters to cast a ballot for me, that gives me an advantage over the Republican and the Democrat. And then there's also the fact that the popular Republican incumbent is not going to get any Democrat votes. And the popular Democrat incumbent is not going to get any Republican votes. So I'm looking to pick off second votes, again, from independent-minded Republicans, independent-minded Democrats, people who are sick of the partisanship. They look at what's going on a state and national level, and they just want competent management. They just want maybe someone with an accounting background who will do a good job of financial management and looking after their interests as members of our community. I think that's a compelling argument. Now, can I get that in front of 250,000 people in New Hanover County and get them to act on that? Well, that's my challenge. Help me out, James.
Don't worry, I will definitely help you out. So let's go over your platform. So I know you have a website, so I guess let's give out a summary of what your platform is first. Tell us a bit about your platform.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go back and repeat that I believe good financial management makes for good government. So the way that plays out within the county government is similar to the federal government. We pay a fairly significant amount of our taxes goes toward debt service. Now, in the county, we are required to pay back our loans. Right? At the federal level, they just keep adding to the debt. Well, in the county, we're paying down our loans, so our debt service includes both interest and the payment of principal. But that still, I think last year was 14% of the budget. So imagine this. If we had more fiscal discipline, if we had more discipline in how much capital we spend, we could have up to 14% more money going to schools, going to health and human services, going to police. So I think that we need to increase the amount of money that we're paying to service the debt. We need to reduce the amount of capital projects so we're not taking on as much debt, and position the county so that in the future, if there's something important comes up and if the voters want to vote for a bond referendum, that we have the borrowing capacity to do that. And if voters are happy with the infrastructure that we've got, or with the parks and public services that we've got, we can start to put that money toward either better services or holding the line on tax increases. Both of those would benefit the county a lot more than some of the recent capital projects. And maybe I'll go into some of those a bit later, but we have a litany of failed capital projects from not failed, but inefficient capital projects that you just need to elect somebody that's going to stop doing it, right? You need to elect someone that's going to say, pay down the debt that we have, pay off the projects that we've committed to, and let's be very careful about what we commit to next.
All righty, fair enough.
So that's my biggest.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so there are a couple other interesting things that are going on in the county. and I'm gonna, your listeners probably have similar situations. One is that housing is very expensive. A lot of people want to live in New Hanover County, and the wages are not as high as you would expect given the population density and kind of the semi-urban nature of the county. So people can't afford to live here. A lot of people move out to the surrounding areas to try to get better housing costs, but that takes them away sometimes from family or makes it a longer commute for their jobs. So we don't have a real good balance of affordable housing. At the same time, we're crowded. We have very little of the county left that's undeveloped. There's maybe about 20% of the land in the northern part of the county is left to be developed. And there are different visions for how to develop that. And one of the popular visions, which I share, is we need to keep some green space. The reason people live in a beautiful coastal community is because they're in touch with nature. They want to have outdoor activities. So we need green space. So how do you balance this need for better infrastructure, better roads, but also limiting high housing costs? I'd like to say we can do both, but we can't. We have to recognize that it's going to be an expensive place. One way that you get more affordable housing is smaller housing units and higher density. But we don't want a lot. We don't want a lot of that either, because that crowds out green space. It adds traffic to the roads. So the county is really in a transition between a high growth, destination type community to a slower growth community where we really need to balance quality of life with some of the trade-offs in terms of infrastructure and affordability for entry-level people. So I think having that realistic view, I think the thing that we're fortunate in New Hanover County is that we do have surrounding counties, Brunswick and Pender County, that can provide some room for growth in the greater metropolitan area. We just don't need all of that growth in New Hanover County. What we do want are good roads, good infrastructure, so that people can move fluidly across the region. But recognize that New Hanover County is near its limit.
Very understandable. So what I'm probably going to do now is to go over some of your blogs, talking about some of the issues that you mentioned, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. The first article I'm going to read is New Hanover County considers a debt increase. Here are some of the problems with that. School board approves $320 million capital request for consideration by the county commissioners next. Oh my God, that is a lot of moolah. In New Hanover County, the current debt per person is about $1,670. This is more than twice the debt load in nearby Brunswick County, where the debt stands at $690 per person. It's also approaching the debt capacity limit of $2,200 per person set by the county back in 2013. I apologize to everybody for the phone ringing. I keep getting spam callers. This doesn't usually happen when I do the interviews in the evening. Sometimes it happens, but oh my God, I do apologize. A big chunk of the county debt pays for recent school construction, both public schools and the cost of Cape Fear Community College buildings. The CFCC buildings alone over the past 10 years have cost over $100 million. And at one point, WECT News reported that the state treasurer raised questions about transparency in the local government and the CFCC. Actually, I'm gonna stop right here to get your response on that.
Yeah, well, one of the things I alluded to earlier, James, was some of the decisions for capital expenditures over the last, let's call it 10 years, have not been well thought out. And in fact, one of the results of that is that there's been underinvestment in the schools. The schools definitely need more facilities in key areas where the population has grown, and the school needs to improve several facilities which are basically functionally obsolete. But there's no money to do that. We're already at our debt limit. And in fact, the $300 million bond referendum, which will be on the ballot, the final details have yet to been spelled out, but it's impossible to do that $300 million right away. There's just not the debt capacity. So the plan would be to maybe spend half of that immediately, and then in 1 or 2 years, when we pay down some of the old debt, replace it with this new debt. So we can't even build the schools that we need today because previous commissions have made what I would say are wrong-headed decisions to spend that money on a new museum, on an updated government center for the government employees. I mean, these are nice buildings and nice to have, but voters need to recognize these things have been done at the expense of students. They've been done at the expense of schools. And the county is behind on those things and cannot even afford to fully fund the bond referendum, which will be on the ballot this time, because of those bad financial decisions. I mentioned that there are 2 incumbents that are running for New Hanover County Council. Those incumbents were part of the government that made those bad decisions. If you believe in schools, if you believe that those schools should be fully funded, you can't vote for those incumbents. Those are the very people that made decisions to invest in other things besides the schools. So it's tricky. I mean, people have a hard time, following the accounting sometimes. But let me be clear: if you prioritize schools, bad decisions have already been made, and we're going to be playing catch up in this county for the next 4 or 5 years to try to fix some of those problems. So I believe that the commissioners should be honest and say, hey, we cannot do $300 million for schools right now. We can do about $150 million right now, and we're going to have to come back to you in 2 years and ask for more. But that's all we can do right now.
All righty. The next thing I want to go over. Another big capital project is Project Grace, accounting for $77 million in construction and related costs. This is on top of $20 million for other new library buildings in the county. And while these buildings may be a pleasure to visit, the books and experience are pretty much the same as when visiting the Carolina Beach branch operating out of a rented storefront.
Yeah, I'll stop you right there. So the county has like 6 or 7 beautiful libraries. It's a really great resource, and I understand why they wanted to invest in that. But government has got limited resources. One of the libraries, the Carolina Beach Library that you just mentioned, it's a storefront in a shopping mall, in a strip mall. There's a Food Lion, there's a Chinese restaurant, there's a bicycle shop, and there's a library, all in the shopping center. Now, the cost of rent on that library is a tiny fraction of the cost to pay for the brand new construction, state-of-the-art, shiny libraries that have popped up in other sections of the county. You just heard me complaining about we don't have money to pay for schools that are needed. No, we've got libraries now, beautiful, beautiful libraries instead of schools, and we don't need them. Every library could be like the one in Carolina Beach. They've got books, it's convenient, it's integrated into the community. They've got good online resources. There are opportunities at these low-cost storefront libraries that are almost equal to the state-of-the-art Taj Mahal libraries that are in the rest of the county. It's really just bad decisions made by current and prior council members that have led us to this terrible trade-off that I personally, I won't be making them. And if you vote for me, you won't be making those mistakes either.
Alrighty, that's good to hear. New spending. With this history, the new Hanover County Commissioners met with the county school board on November 17 to discuss the capital spending needs of the county schools. They met in the recently completed $45 million NHC Government Center building. Oh my God. Like many capital projects, the plans presented were exciting, urgent, and in some ways compelling. Several school buildings desperately need repairs and are functionally obsolete. Overcrowding needs to be addressed. Traffic gridlock plagues some. Everyone at the meeting understood the priority to keep children safe and nurture their fullest potential, but not everyone attending the meeting thought it meant well. Bob Drach, attending as a representative of the Cape Fear Libertarian Party, observed, "The plan as presented is a political gambit. Prior school bonds were approved in 2005 and 2014. This plan asks for a $320 million bond commitment to fund projects over the next 8 to 10 years. The thinking seems to be to ask for it all now, locking in the spending for the next decade, regardless of what future changes or improvements may bear out." You got a link to the full proposed plan. The plan locks up capital commitments for a decade, but only funds phase 1 of a 4-phase project to refurbish New Hanover High School. Phases 2, 3, and 4 could be pushed out a decade unless another source of funding is found. Bob also found out some bond funding goes into expenses you might expect in an operating budget. The plan includes $10 million for replacements of all tablets, oh my God, and computers over the next 5 years. This is equipment with an approximate 5-year service life? Damn. Some of these concerns came out in a discussion, but there were also concerns that the backlog of school capital projects was the result of prior inaction. Commissioner Dane Scalise spoke about the need to take action, a sentiment echoed by others, including Chair Bill Rivenbark.
Yeah, so I mean, there are a couple things there you've heard me talking about, the bad financial decisions, but you mentioned one example there. They have this capital request. They want the voters to take on debt with a duration of 10 plus years, but they want to use that debt to buy computers, which have a lifespan of 5 years. Well, that doesn't work. If you take on 10-year debt, you need to buy an asset that lasts at least 10 years. It's, like if you bought a car and you got a 20-year loan on the car, and after 5 years you got rid of the car, you'd be paying the debt for the next 15 years. Or I'll give you another example, which a lot of people can relate to. Let's say you go to college and you take out a loan from the government and you have to pay it back over the next 20 years. Well, guess what happens? Instead of starting your life, buying a house, having the flexibility to change jobs or try independent work, you've got this loan payment for the next 20 years that you're obligated to. It's just stupid. And the fact that the government made those decisions or is proposing that type of financial structure tells you all you need to know about the people that are running it right now.
All right. A better way? Drach explained that to avoid the mistakes of past capital spending, the county should take smaller bites. This would take action on the urgent items and keep flexibility for the future. He gives up the example of the costly convention project that still needs to be propped up with a 6% room occupancy tax, which makes Wilmington a little bit less friendly to all visitors, most of whom never used the convention center. When asked what he would do to match the school capital proposal to the available debt capacity, Bob says, "I would focus on a shorter time frame of 3 to 5 years and authorize just the following: $60 million for New Hanover High School Phase 1, $60 million for Pine Valley or River Lights Elementary, $10 million for Porter's Neck Elementary improvements, $20 million for school HVAC refurbishment, $5 million for safety and security improvements, and $5 million for management and contingency. The other projects can be reprioritized in 3 to 5 years as debt capacity becomes available again. Otherwise, we will just continue lurching down this path of crowding out better future projects because our leaders fail to make more measured decisions today.
Yeah, that sounds very reasonable, doesn't it? And the problem is that our past county commissioners have not been reasonable. You talked about the convention center project. That was actually partly driven by the city government. The convention center is located in the city, but it's basically been an economic white elephant. It gets subsidized annually by an additional tax, based on hotel rooms. So that's one of those government gimmicks where, oh, you won't have to pay for it, only the visitors will pay for it. Well, every community in the country has played that game. So now when we all travel, no matter where we go in the country, if we stay in a hotel, there's an extra tax on that hotel for out-of-town visitors. It's just an unfriendly thing. And this is where my libertarian roots are going to come out. There's a meme in libertarian circles that taxation is theft. Well, what libertarians mean is exactly this thing. If you're a traveler, you go into a hotel and they're going to take an extra 6, 8, 10, up to 13% out of your wallet because you stayed at a hotel. If somebody on the street stuck a gun in your face and said, give me 13%, you'd say that's theft. So nobody likes it. These taxes, these surcharges, these annoying things that pay for white elephant projects that nobody uses, it degrades the quality of all of our lives. And none of it would be necessary if government would just refrain from making bad financial decisions and instead spent the money on the true needs of the community. Let's have good schools for our kids. Let's make sure the fire trucks are working. Let's have emergency management. Let's pay for a sheriff to enforce basic property rights and ensure that people aren't committing violence on each other. And let's limit it to that. Let's limit the government to what it can do well to make our lives better and get government out of all those aspects of our lives which are only expensive and annoying.
Alrighty, that is pretty fair enough. Next steps. While the Board of Education voted to advance their plan on October 8th, the county commissioners will study the plan further and conduct public reviews next year. Final approval must come from the voters in the form of a ballot measure in November 2026.
Yeah, I'm going to jump and tell you about one more bad financial decision that's been made recently in New Hanover County. And this can be a warning for people in other counties not to go down the same path. But New Hanover County used to own its own hospital building. It was the New Hanover County Regional Medical Center. Well, a prior board fairly recently sold that asset to Novant, a big healthcare company in the state of North Carolina. They got $1.6 billion. $1.6 billion came into the county for the sale of the hospital. Now, remember, the county budget is about $500 million. So this is more than 3 years of county budget money that they were received all in one lump sum. Well, the commissioners at that time put the money into a trust fund. And there are rules around the trust, and the money is supposed to be spent for the benefit of county residents. But for most of the last 5 years, very little of that money has been spent. The process for submitting projects and spending that money is a bit opaque, and it's out of the hands of the voters. There's a board that gets, it's one of these boards that I mentioned earlier. There's some people on the board appointed by the county commissioner, but the board is largely independent. So this $1.6 billion has been locked up for the last 5 years. Meanwhile, we just spent a half hour talking about the school system and the capital needs of the school and how we can't even afford to build the schools and refurbish the schools that our students need today. So it's just maddening that the county commissioners locked up $1.6 billion. We can't touch it. We can't spend it on the needs of the county. And meanwhile, we're going back to the voters to ask for $300 million bond referendum. And even if we spent that money even if the bond referendum passes, we won't be allowed to borrow that money for up to the next 3 to 5 years because we're at our debt capacity. So if you're following this discussion at all, you're probably thinking to yourself, it would have been a good idea to take some of that $1.6 billion and upgrade all of the school buildings that need it. And then maybe take the rest of that $1.6 billion and give it back to the taxpayers. Let's have lower tax rates, or let's hold tax rates in the future and have a mechanism to fund government at its current rate without increasing taxes. Just another example, James, of terrible, terrible financial decisions that have they're negatively impacting the lives of our people today, our students, our schools, and our taxpayers.
Yeah, that's freaking insane. All right, the next article I'm gonna read is New Hanover County needs affordable housing, public safety, and an emphasis on green space, like you said before. Taxpayers in New Hanover County value their neighbors, the climate, the community, and the community that has emerged over the past 50 years. But they are increasingly concerned about housing costs, pockets of violence, traffic snarls, and loss of green space, and the costs imposed by business as usual in local government. Their concerns are tied to the fact that the New Hampshire County is increasingly space constrained. Development is encroaching onto CAMA, Coastal Area Management Act, conservation areas, and this needs to stop. Where development is still possible, higher densities must be balanced with green space to enhance the environment. Traffic impacts needs to be considered and costs shifted to new users so legacy taxpayers do not bear the cost of developers' profits. Meanwhile, the current members of the NHC Commission represent the tired old way of doing things. They have between them over 50 continuous years of service in local government. If taxpayers want to get better answers to today's problems, the NHC Board of Commissioners needs some fresh blood. Some examples: 12% of the NHC budget for 2026 is spent on debt service, with the biggest part of that being education debt service. Since overall school enrollment is down 4% since 2018, the debt should be paid accordingly. Instead, the school board wants to put a $320 million bond on the ballot in 2026. New Hanover County has a history of ego projects like the Wilmington Convention Center, excessive building at Cape Fear Community College, and head-scratching standalone ABC buildings. This underscores the importance of having a civilian watchdog on the Board of Commissioners. Property taxes drive up expenses for young adults, hence these taxes should be strictly limited. When there are not good alternatives to government services, it is best to increase user fees to offset higher costs, such as with solid waste tipping fees, and create a market incentive for conservation and best practices.
Yeah, thanks for reading that. You went over my ideas of what good financial management requires. It's a bunch of relatively boring, mundane decisions that are always financially conservative. But if you do that consistently over time, you get better services, less government waste, lower taxes, and more opportunity for future decision makers. So I don't want to keep beating a dead horse here, James. But I think through the course of the conversation, we've made it clear that over the past 8 to 10 years, there have been a series of bad financial decisions in New Hanover County. The people who made those bad financial decisions currently serve on the board on the county commission, the Board of Commissioners. If you want to change, you have to elect new county commissioners. You cannot elect the incumbents, and you cannot elect members of the same party who are going to rubber stamp the decisions that have been made in the past. I'm pleased to be affiliated with the Libertarian Party. It demonstrates my financially conservative bona fides, and I'm pleased to be affiliated with the Forward Party. The Forward Party is grounded in using data and facts to make good decisions for people in a nonpartisan fashion. That's exactly what I propose to do, and that's why I say we need fresh blood on the county commission. If you have trouble with the concept of fresh blood, this is a little bit of a joke. You probably see I'm a pretty serious guy, but my last name is Drach. When I was growing up, kids would tease me. They'd say Dracula, Count Dracula, right? And so when I say we want fresh blood on the county commission, you can think of Dracula as maybe someone who's interested in fresh blood.
That is awesome.
That's a bad joke, right?
I liked it. Anyways, keep the good. New Hanover County has a generally solid annual budgeting process. From my own observation, the staff does a good job. Over the years, major problems get attention and get fixed. This needs to continue while certain legacy programs face more scrutiny and more services come from efficiencies rather than growing competition costs. As noted above, NHC is a maturing county. No longer can it expect rapid growth to fund future government. Its next stage will depend on continued good government and changing future spending to match the new priorities. Another strength in the county is the development of boards and districts to keep focus on and target funding on community priorities. Love or hate it, you go to the Airport Authority for ILM airport issues, and you go to Cape Fear Public Utilities Authority, CFPUA, for water and sewer. Some of these may need to get more visibility, such as solid waste management, room occupancy tax spending, and the fire rescue district. The county commissioners can play a key role in bringing more visibility. Most importantly, we need to put behind us the days of filling in marshes to build, accepting community violence, overcrowding constricted roadways, and approving spending on departments that do not reflect our future interests. These are the new priorities we want from our NHC commissioners.
I couldn't have said that better myself, James.
Alrighty, the next article I'm going to read is Republicans and Democrats work together to impoverish you. That is so true. North Carolinians know the stress of being stuck.
Yeah, well, James, let me quickly jump in. You're getting to some of my older posts that were written in my last election cycle. When we talk, you'll see that I've got a series of posts on the government debt, and I'm just horrified by the government debt. And I think that debt is worse than taxation. And you used the word impoverished. What we're doing is we're impoverishing the next generation. We're spending their money, and we're going to regret it, just like the citizens of New Hanover County regret the bad financial decisions of the recent past. But anyway, please continue. I just know we're getting into bigger topics than New Hanover County at this point.
No, it's all right. If you have anything else to say, feel free. All right, I guess I'll continue reading then. North Carolinians know the stress of being stuck in debt, and the government imposes crushing debt that they would never agree to for themselves. Who in North Carolina ran up the debt? All incumbent members of the U.S. Congress have responsibility for incurring federal debt. Special blame goes to the U.S. House of Representatives, yes, which is the only part of government that can introduce bills to raise revenue. The two longest-serving members of North Carolina's House delegations are Representatives Alma Adams, NC-12, and David Rouzer, NC-7. For those that don't know, Alma Adams is a Democrat and David Rouzer is a Republican. They have both served over 10 years and voted for over $18 trillion in debt between them. That's over $10,000 in debt per year. every year for each household in North Carolina. During the 10 years of both Adams and Rouser, the national debt has more than doubled. The examples of these two representatives show that both Democrats and Republicans are responsible for causing unprecedented federal debt. One party has historically been about helping the poor and building the middle class. The other has a brand built on fiscal responsibility and low taxes. Yet the climbing federal debt displaces spending for the poor, pressures the middle class, is fiscally irresponsible, and increases for future taxes. The Department of the Treasury has laid out the shocking facts on its fiscal data website. Shocking, but nowhere on the website does it say debt crisis. These words are used by many others, including the centrist think tank, the Brookings Institution, in a recent article by Wendy Edelberg, Ben Harris, and Louis Shiner. They state, analysts warn, however, that our nation's growing debt will inevitably lead to a crisis.
Yeah, so there are a couple of things I'll quickly comment on there. One is that many of the people I've met in the Forward Party understand that the debt is a problem. I think there may be some disagreement on whether you cut spending or whether you increase taxes. But that's a discussion that we need to have based on the facts at hand. Right now, they're not having that discussion. Republicans and Democrats are not making the tough decisions that we elect them to make, and instead are impoverishing the next generation. I point out the two most senior legislators in North Carolina, one of whom is David Rouser. And I would like to mention our Libertarian Party has a candidate running against David Rouser. His name is Maad Abu-Ghazaleh. And he's the guy to vote for if you believe that government spending is a problem and that at a minimum, the budget needs to be balanced. Now, whether that's done through tax increases or reducing spending, it's probably going to take both, but it's got to be done.
Absolutely, and I have interviewed Maad Abu-Ghazaleh, and he's pretty awesome. And also, once again, everyone, I do apologize for the spam callers. This hasn't happened in a while, but still, it's pretty annoying with a whole bunch of spam callers, especially in the evening, too. It's pretty annoying. Anyways.
I would say, as long as they're not political candidates calling you and asking for your vote, that's okay. But all the other spam callers, yeah, they're annoying.
Absolutely. All right, next article I'm going to read. What did you get for $216,313.29? What did you give up? Would you take on $216,313.29 in debt because someone told you that it was necessary? The interest payments alone mean that you will spend less on food, shelter, and other daily expenses just to cover the interest payments. You also must postpone or give up your important goals in life, such as education, raising a family, better transportation, more education, and anything else that depends on your future net income. Whatever you thought was important is now erased. The government will now take big portion of your wages, and you just need to trust them. Do not worry, they will spend it better than you would anyway. The crushing burden of debt is why people, when given the choice of taking on debt individually, do not take on near the debt that the government imposes on them. According to the New York Federal Reserve and other sources, the average household debt in the U.S. is about $32,000, excluding mortgages. This number, $32,000, represents the collective wisdom of over 170 million American households as to the amount of non-mortgage debt they are each willing to assume. Federal debt is 7 times non-mortgage household debt. Wow, that's a lot. In his 2004 book, The Wisdom of Crowds, author James Sorowski, I'm not going to pronounce that. I don't think I pronounced it right, showed how collective knowledge can be superior to biased or conflicted experts. The case of the federal debt may be a case where the wise crowd gives a better answer. The so-called experts in this case includes biased Keynesian economists and conflicted politicians who increase spending while paying with debt rather than increasing taxes. Just how much has the federal debt diverged from the wisdom of the crowd? so much that in 2025, the expected U.S. federal debt per household will exceed $216,000. That's 7 times more than the $32,000 household average of non-mortgage debt. This is not a partisan thing. Both Democrats and Republican members of Congress vote for deficit spending, and presidents of both parties sign off on government debt. And voters continue to let government to take on debt orders of magnitude higher than they would take on themselves. The Department of the Treasury has laid out the shocking facts about your debt on its fiscal data website. Nowhere on the website does it say debt crisis, but these words are used by many others, including the centrist think tank, the Brookings Institution, in a recent article. Wait, didn't I read this already? Anyways.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. The key point in what you're reading is that you and I may choose to take on debt. And it turns out, if you study the numbers, that we'll take on $30,000 to $40,000 in debt. The federal government has taken on 7 times the debt per person that we individually choose for ourselves. It's like taking on debt is a commitment, and one that should not be taken lightly. And most people, serious people, frivolous people, just on average people, will take on maybe $35,000 in debt. Maybe they buy a car. This is non-mortgage, right? Credit cards, whatever. The government puts 7 times what you would pick for yourself. It puts 7 times that on you. If we understood, it's like the frog that's being boiled, right? We're cooked. We're totally cooked. That's 7 times more than we think we can pay back ourselves. And the government should not be allowed to do that. I feel powerless to fight back against this, burden that they're putting on me personally, but they're putting it on my kids too. They're putting it on your kids. They're putting it on all my friends. None of us, left to our own devices, would ever make this decision. So why should we be forced to pay it back when the government makes that decision? It's horrific.
I agree with you. All right, next article. The government just imposed over $200,000 in debt on you. Make it stop. North Carolinians know the stress of being stuck in debt, with certain types of household debt running above the national averages, according to the Urban Institute. Despite high levels of household debt, each household's share of the national debt is even more, according to the data from the Department of Treasury website. Again, from the Urban Institute, credit can be a lifetime during emergencies and a bridge to education and home ownership. But debt, which can stem from credit or unpaid bills, often burdens families and communities' financial well-being. These same words could apply to federal debt, though the amount of federal debt is an order of magnitude greater than the amount of household debt, excluding mortgage debt. The most obvious harm caused by the large federal debt is from the interest payments, which, according to fiscal data.treasury.gov, are now 14% of federal spending. Only Social Security spending is higher. God damn. High interest payments displace spending on social welfare, national defense, and other urgent priorities of government. Another harm of persistent deficit spending is borne by future generations who are obligated to pay it back, despite much of the benefit going to recipients today. Just as interest payments displace beneficial spending today, the repayment obligations of debt can displace future spending on essential programs. What's the national debt? Currently a little above $36 trillion, according to May 14, 2025, and that number has probably gone up since then. Democrats and Republicans and their voters are all complicit in this mess. When will any of them wake up? They'll never wake up. We all know that. The Department of the... Okay, I think that those last 2 sentences are... I guess you've applied them to like multiple blogs, so that might have been what happened, but hey!
I'll tell you one quick story, which I think talks to the point you just made. I was explaining to a person once, he said, "What's a libertarian?" I said, "Well, a libertarian believes in small government and, restrained spending." And he looked at me and he said, "Don't the Republican?" And he stopped himself. he was going to say, isn't that what the Republicans believe in? But he stopped himself. He said, wait, I just answered my own questions. The Republicans do not believe in limited government. They do not believe in balancing the budget. Republicans do not believe, they're not conservative. The Republicans and the Democrats are equally complicit. They spend your money, they spend your children's money as if it grew on trees. And they really care nothing about you personally. They're just trying to hold on to their own power. They're not making the decisions that we need them to make, and they're going to, it's not going to make the country evaporate. What's going to happen though is it's going to degrade the quality of life for people today, and it's going to significantly limit the opportunities of people in the future. And it's just unfair. We used to believe in this country that we wanted our children to have a better future. That was a big part of the deal and what we worked for. But that's not what's happening today. It's completely justified to say that baby boomers are a selfish generation. They've created all of this debt and they've pushed it onto their children. And that's reprehensible. It's despicable. Anyone with a conscience that wants to fight against that needs to take action today. They need to stop voting for Republicans and Democrats. They need to vote for people who are financially responsible, fiscally conservative, and will take on the obligations that they've committed to, not pass them on to their children. That's it's just the wrong behavior, and it's makes me sad to have to say that.
Understandable. All right, I guess the last article I'll be going over is State Auditor Office Problems Worsen. I ran a campaign to improve the performance of the State Auditor's Office, but I did not imagine it would get this bad. In August last year, I reported on the continuing disarray in the Office of the State Auditor. I thought that the recent appearance of corruption, lack of accounting experience in leadership, and polarization of the office was a recipe for disaster. Was it ever? Since that time, the office has become more politicized and more dysfunctional as measured by the number of audit reports completed by the office. Through April, audits are down more than 50% over the past 2 years. And there's actually a chart for this, which I usually don't share tabs on. I usually don't share tabs, but I think for this one, I think I would like to show you all the chart. But hang on. I think I'm gonna need to share my screen instead, just so Bob can see it too. This chart right here.
Yeah, well, thanks for showing that. When I ran for state auditor, there were problems in the state auditor's office. The woman who was an incumbent, who was actually an appointee of the Democratic government, the Democrat governor, she was a lawyer, not an auditor. And she spent a year coming up the learning curve on how to do her job. And during that year, the performance of the office continued to deteriorate. Well, the guy that replaced her, the Republicans elected a guy who's also a lawyer, not an accountant, doesn't know auditing. He's been learning on the job, but no surprise, the office has continued to deteriorate. Furthermore, it's gotten politicized, and it's just a total mess. But kind of like the budget mess that we have in our government. It's a lot of numbers, it's a lot of details. No one really cares if Fayetteville State University has corruption, or if that government program to distribute free money was pilfered by some of the vendors. And I don't say nobody cares, but it takes a lot of work. And that's the importance of electing, in this case, an auditor who understands financial management and the activity of auditing. And I'm going to pivot back to the county commissioner race. If you don't want to pay attention to the details, but you want good government, then you need to elect somebody who's got an accounting background, who has got a successful business background, and who can manage the finances of the county and grow the opportunity, and not not get the result that we're seeing here, for, similar to what happened in the state auditor's office.
Alrighty, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and then I'm going to finish reading the rest of this article. Meanwhile, the auditor's office has been in a distracting, high-profile dispute between the legislature and the governor. Oh boy, what a surprise. There's also legislation to get the office involved in reviewing government efficiency, which seems absurd given the efficiency of the office today. The state auditor has also been vocal about auditing the DMV as a way to improve customer service there. I don't even know the status of that one. As I preached in my campaign, when a small organization of professionals like the Office of State Auditor is shaken to its core by an ethical issue and the right managers are not there to right the course, the organization can go into a death spiral. Even with excellent management and the focus of the professionals still at work in the OSA, a turnaround now will be difficult and a difficult and protracted effort. Hopefully, we will not need to wait until the next election for this mess to get straightened out.
Again, James, I couldn't say that better myself.
Alrighty, with that being said, how's the campaign going?
Well, it's really starting to heat up now. I've been having a good time. During the primary election, I did put up signs, Bob Drach for county commissioner, and I got an overwhelming response. People who I haven't seen in 5 or 10 years reached out to me and said, "Hey, I saw your signs. I'm going to vote for you." I just went to the bank today and the teller that I'm part of the homeowners association here. I'm actually the treasurer for the local homeowners association. So the teller, I told her my name and she said, "Oh, I saw your signs. I'll vote for you." So that's really encouraging. Harkening back to the beginning of our conversation, if all politics are local, if being elected by your community is the way to build credibility and show that you're electable on a larger scale, then I'm definitely going down the right path with this campaign.
That's awesome. Next up, do you have plans on making a YouTube channel?
Say it one more time.
Do you have plans on making a YouTube channel?
Making it, the chairman, you said.
Let me repeat the question.
I'm sorry,
do you have plans on making a YouTube channel?
Oh, YouTube channel. Sorry. I did have a few YouTube videos for my state auditor campaign. I think I will create a YouTube channel, but right now what I've got is my website, which you're on. You can find me on X. It'd probably be Drach 4NC for New Hanover County, NHC. And LinkedIn, you can find me, Bob Drach. But I try to focus most of my commentary on X.com, and I put my blog posts on my website. So those are the best ways to follow me. You can get in touch with me on my website if you're interested in volunteering, if you're in New Hanover County, if you want to help spread the word of that good financial management makes for good government. I'd encourage you to sign up on my website. And that's really what's going to make this an effective campaign, is people who care enough to make a difference, people who understand the problems won't be resolved by the same people who created those problems. I need you. Please sign up.
That is great to hear. And I guess one thing before I ask you if there's anything else that you need to talk about, I do have an announcement for everybody. I have officially signed up to officially volunteer for a couple of Green Party candidates for the North Carolina Green Party campaign in the terms of phone banking. So I will be planning on helping those Green Party candidates with their phone banking there. And I'm also talked to Rob Yates, and I decided that I will also help with the Libertarian Party of North Carolina in their phone banking to get people to vote for Libertarian candidates as well. So I am going to be doing some phone banking in the future soon, so that way I can get people to go third party and leave the two-party system.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, God bless you, James. Thank you for your work to spread the word that we don't need to be stuck in a two-party system, that every vote counts, and every vote for a third-party candidate starts to move the needle toward the type of electoral system that will represent a broader set of values.
That's awesome. Now my last question for you is there anything else you want to talk about?
Not at this point. I appreciate you covering a lot of the information. I appreciate you bringing up some of my prior blog posts. I think listeners can understand that I'm a pretty serious financial manager. I understand the financial challenges that we face both at a local, state, and federal level, and I think we can all act locally. We can all make an impact on our community, and if enough of us take that approach and do that, we can start to change politics that are so disruptive and so disheartening at the state and national level.
That is awesome to hear. So with that being said, that's going to be it for the Political Freedom Fighters podcast episode, everyone. If you all have enjoyed, please hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and hit the notification bell in case you're new to, and hit the notification bell just in case you can get notified on any new videos coming up for the podcast. With that being said, I hope you all enjoy, and I'll see you all later. Take care.
Thank you, James. Take care.